All right, let's jump right in. If you're leading any kind of organization today, you know it can feel like you're trying to navigate a storm without a compass. So today, we're going to look at a framework from a consultancy called PublicWise. They've got a whole new kind of compass, one designed specifically for the challenges we're all facing right now. Let's see what it's all about. Sound familiar? You're being pulled in a dozen different directions all at once. You've got your economic targets to hit, all these regulatory hurdles to clear, and then you have the public, not to mention your own team, watching every single move you make. It's just a relentless balancing act. And, in the middle of all that pressure, it's completely understandable to feel overwhelmed, to feel like you're just reacting, or maybe even to just feel lost. You're definitely not alone in that. The old maps, the old rulebooks, they just don't seem to work anymore.
But what if there was a better way to find your bearings? What if there was a new kind of compass? One actually built for this modern landscape? Well, that's the core idea behind the PublicWise approach. So the central concept here is something they call organizational publicness. And look, you can forget whether your company is technically public or private. That's not what this is about. The idea is that every single organization today, from a tiny tech startup to a huge city hospital, lives and breathes in a public arena. Just think of it like a whole spectrum of forces, social values, economic pressures, regulations, that you have to understand to really thrive.
So, what's the goal here? It's about flipping the script. It's about stopping seeing all this publicness as a threat and starting to see it as your greatest strategic asset. The whole idea is to transform all that external pressure into a tool that actually creates value for your people, for your organization, and for the public that you serve. And this really gets to the heart of the paradigm shift. You know the old playbook: look inward, focus only on efficiency, and just react when the outside world gets noisy. Well, the PublicWise view challenges that completely. It's about looking outward first, focusing on building real value and trust, and proactively navigating the landscape instead of just getting pushed around by it.
Okay, so that all sounds great, but how do you actually get there? How do you go from all that complexity to genuine clarity? Well, PublicWise says it's not magic. It's a structured, collaborative method. Let's take a look at how it works. It's a journey, and it unfolds in 4 main steps. First, you map the terrain. You figure out exactly where your organization meets all these external pressures. Second, you define your core values. And I don't mean just words, I mean real guiding principles for every decision. Third, and this one is so important, you foster real dialogue, creating the psychological safety so people can actually speak up. And finally, you adapt. Because this isn't a one-and-done fix. It's a constant loop of measuring, learning, and adjusting.
And here's a really key point. This is not some rigid, one-size-fits-all playbook. They don't just show up and hand you a binder with a pre-baked template. The entire process is built with you, tailored specifically to your organization's unique world and its challenges. Okay, so we get the philosophy, we get the method. But what does this actually look like in practice? How does all this strategy translate into real, tangible impact for a leader and their teams? The support really comes in 3 key flavors. There's direct, one-on-one executive advisory for leaders who are in the hot seat. There's leadership development, think workshops and training to build teams that are way more resilient and purpose-driven. And then there's deep, hands-on support to guide the whole organization through a lasting transformation. But at the end of the day, it's about the results. What can you actually expect? Well, instead of a mission statement that just gathers dust, you get a clear vision that actually connects your values to performance. For leaders, that means less burnout and more confidence. For teams, it means real cohesion, not uncertainty. The goal is change that actually sticks, so you can build an organization that earns and keeps public trust.
You know, this chart really sums up the whole journey. It's all about driving this fundamental transformation. Moving your organization from over here, a state of high stress and ambiguity, to over here, a place of proactive clarity, where you and your team feel truly confident about shaping what comes next.
This quote from the legendary Edgar Schein, it just perfectly captures the spirit of this work. It's not about a consultant coming in with all the answers. The philosophy is about a mutual journey of discovery.
It's about asking the right questions together to find the right path for your organization. So, as we start to wrap this up, what are the big ideas you can take away from all of this? The things you can start thinking about in your own world right now. Let's boil it down to 3 key things.
First, just accept this new reality. Like it or not, your reputation, your impact, your relationships, they are all being judged on a public stage 24/7. You can't hide from it, so you have to learn how to navigate it wisely.
Second, take your values seriously. I mean, really seriously. They're not just feel-good words for the lobby. When they are deeply understood and used every single day, they become the most powerful and reliable tool you have for making tough calls and staying on course in a storm. And finally, number 3, remember that real meaningful change doesn't happen just because of a memo from the top. It's not about directives, it's built from the ground up, by creating a culture of trust where real, honest dialogue can actually happen. That is the only way you make change stick.
So if you're a leader who wants to move from just being reactive and stressed out to being proactive and confident, well, this is a path that's definitely worth exploring.
Their philosophy is pretty simple, really. Doing well by doing good, wisely. If you want to learn more and maybe start your own journey to clarity, you can check them out at PublicWise.online. So I'll leave you with this question. Are you just managing the pressures your organization faces, or are you ready to strategically turn them into your greatest asset?